The auditorium at Georgetown University pulsed with anticipation. Students, professors, and national reporters packed the hall, waiting for a familiar voice, one that once symbolized hope. Barack Obama stepped to the podium with his signature poise. The crowd stood, clapping politely. But something felt off. He wasn't smiling. His eyes, usually calm pools of charisma, burned with something deeper, something personal. The room, filled with murmurs and phone cameras, fell into an uneasy hush. Then, without warning, Obama stopped mid-sentence, placed both hands on the lectern, and stared directly into the cameras. His jaw clenched. "Donald Trump," he said slowly, "is a treacherous snake, a man who slithered into power by poisoning the trust of the American people." Gasps. Someone dropped a phone. Reporters blinked in disbelief. It wasn't just the words, it was the fire behind them. For a president known for smoothness and grace, this was a dagger thrown. Twitter exploded. News anchors scrambled off teleprompters. Within minutes, the quote was everywhere. But in a quiet room in Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump watched it unfold in silence. He leaned forward, unshaken, steady, and he whispered to himself, "So, it's war." It was just past 7 p.m. in Phoenix when Trump's rally crowd surged with energy. Flags waved, chants of USA echoed like thunder. But tonight wasn't just about chants or cheers, it was about answering fire with fire. Trump stepped onto the stage with no script, no notes, just fury masked by focus. His voice was low at first, almost reflective. "I watched him today," he began. "Obama." The crowd went quiet. "He called me a snake, a treacherous one, said I poisoned America's trust." His eyes scanned the sea of faces, then he gripped the podium tightly. "He should look in the mirror," Trump growled. His entire administration was a swamp of lies, cover-ups, and sellouts to global interests. "I didn't poison trust. I exposed betrayal." The crowd gasped, then erupted. Roars, stomps, tears. He wasn't just defending himself, he was standing for everyone who had ever felt ignored, betrayed, or forgotten. "I'm not the snake. I'm the storm that came to drain the swamp." The arena shook. Grown men wiped tears. Veterans saluted. Women held their kids close. This wasn't politics anymore. It was personal. CNN cut to commercial too late. MSNBC replayed the clip on loop. Even networks that once scoffed at Trump's words couldn't deny what they had just witnessed. Something had shifted. The clash wasn't about two former presidents, it was about two visions of America, and the people were choosing sides. In rural Ohio, a widowed farmer named Clara sat alone on her couch, tears in her eyes. Her husband had loved Trump, died before he could see him return to the White House. But tonight, Clara felt like he was sitting beside her again. "He's fighting for us," she whispered. In inner-city Detroit, a teenage boy who once scoffed at politics watched Trump's speech on his cracked phone. He saw power, not pride, emotion, not ego. "He means it," he texted his mom. "He actually means it." Barbershops buzzed. Family dinners fell into silence. Across the country, the raw honesty from both men had pierced something deeper than politics. For some, Obama's words reopened old wounds. For others, Trump's response lit a fire that had nearly gone out. Everyone could feel it now. The battle wasn't over. It had just begun. Backstage after the rally, Trump sat in a folding chair, towel draped over his neck. The room was buzzing, aides on phones, reporters banging on the door, but he was still, quiet. Melania entered. No words, just a glance. He looked up. "They're not after me," he said softly. "They're after what I represent. I just got in their way." Her eyes welled up. She knew this man, the weight he carried, the hate he absorbed. People saw a fighter. She saw a man who hadn't slept through the night in years, not since the world decided he was their villain. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. He nodded, swallowing hard. In that moment, it wasn't about Obama. It wasn't about revenge. It was about a country still bleeding, still broken, and a man who refused to walk away. Trump didn't rise to fame by accident. He rose because millions believed someone finally spoke for them. Now, under fire again, he wasn't backing down. He stood up, pulled on his coat, and turned to his staff. "Book me on every network that'll take me. This isn't politics anymore," he said. "This is a reckoning." In Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, a retired steelworker named Jack sat on his porch with a cigarette trembling between his fingers. The evening news showed a clip of Obama's speech again. "A treacherous snake," the anchor repeated. Jack turned the TV off. He had voted Democrat his whole life, until 2016, until he lost his job, until no one seemed to care. Trump had walked through Jack's town. Walked, not flown in and out. He listened to their stories, shook their hands, remembered their names. When Trump called out the betrayal, Jack didn't hear arrogance. He heard truth. He picked up his phone and sent a shaky message to his daughter. "Still think he's the villain?" She didn't respond right away. But hours later, she sent back a clip, Trump's full speech from the rally. Jack watched every second. His eyes burned. Not from the cigarette, from something deeper, something raw. "He gets it," Jack whispered. Across the country, towns like Jack's, towns hollowed by time and policy, came alive again. Trump's words weren't rehearsed. They were remembered, felt. It wasn't about party lines anymore. It was about who still cared. Barack Obama sat alone in the guest quarters of his D.C. home staring at the television. Trump's rally clip played again, unedited. The crowd's roars were deafening. Michelle stood in the doorway, watching him quietly. "You went hard," she said gently. He didn't look away from the screen. "I meant every word." "But did you mean the way you said it?" she asked, stepping closer. "You never used to talk like that." He rubbed his temples. "Because I never felt this kind of fear before. Not for me, for the country." Michelle sat beside him. "Or maybe it's not fear. Maybe it's pain. Pain watching someone lead millions with truth that doesn't sound like yours." He didn't answer. In the silence, Obama thought of the faces in that rally crowd, so passionate, so desperate to be seen. He wasn't blind to it. He had once drawn crowds like that, but something had changed, and maybe, just maybe, he had underestimated what Trump had become to those people. Not a politician, a voice. He exhaled slowly. "This isn't going away, is it?" he whispered. Michelle shook her head. "No, not this time." In a small Indiana town, 12-year-old Ethan sat at the kitchen table while his mother wiped her eyes quietly. His dad had died last year from a stroke. He'd been a steelworker, proud and strong, a Trump supporter through and through. Ethan remembered his dad's words. "Trump fights for people like us. He says what others are too scared to say." Ethan saw the news about Obama's insult, then watched Trump's response online. He didn't understand everything, but he felt it. The hurt, the strength. He grabbed a pencil and wrote something raw, something real. "Dear Mr. Trump, I'm just a kid, but I saw what you said. You stood up for people like my dad. He's not here anymore. But if he was, I know he'd be proud of you. So I'm proud too. Keep fighting. Ethan." His mom saw the letter and broke down, sobbing into her hands. Sometimes the country forgets about kids like Ethan. But not tonight. That letter would later be read on live television, and when Trump saw it, everything changed. It was nearly midnight when the letter landed on Trump's desk. He read Ethan's shaky handwriting in silence. Then he did something his aides didn't expect. He asked for a private line, shut the door, and made a call. Ethan's mother picked up, confused and cautious. "Hello? This is Donald Trump," he said gently. "Is Ethan home?" Silence. Then her voice cracked. Yes, but he's asleep." "That's all right," Trump said. "I just wanted to thank you. His letter meant more to me than any headline." She started crying. Trump paused. "I know how it feels to lose someone strong," he added quietly. "It changes you." She couldn't speak. He didn't need her to. After a long pause, he said one last thing. "Tell Ethan I'll never forget what he wrote. And I promise, I'm still fighting for him." As he hung up, tears welled in his eyes. Not from weakness, from the reminder of why he stood at podiums night after night. It wasn't for power. It was for people, for the broken, for the unseen. And tonight, he had just become a hero in a little boy's story. By morning, The story had spread like wildfire. News outlets scrambled to confirm the letter, the call, the emotion. And then Fox aired the moment that broke the internet. They brought Ethan and his mother to the studio. Cameras rolled. Ethan sat in a too-big chair, legs dangling, holding his dad's worn work cap. The host leaned in. "Why did you write to Mr. Trump?" Ethan looked up, voice soft but sure. "Because he's the only one who didn't forget us." The studio fell silent. His mom wiped tears. "This wasn't about politics," she said. "It was about feeling seen, for the first time in a long time." Clips of the interview flooded social media. Veterans, truckers, farmers, even single moms posted their stories with the hashtag Trump didn't forget us. And something unexpected happened. The media couldn't mock it because it wasn't staged. It was real, raw, human. Trump didn't respond with spin or press conferences. Instead, he posted one sentence: "This boy gave me strength. Now I'll give it back to this country." And once again, he had shifted the entire conversation. Miles away in Georgia, retired Marine Sergeant Luis Harper sat in his wheelchair, eyes locked on the TV replaying Trump's rally and the little boy's interview. He hadn't spoken much since his stroke. His daughter Maria sat next to him. "Do you want me to change the channel, Dad?" Luis shook his head slowly. Tears rolled down his cheeks. He had served 2 tours overseas, lost his best friend in Fallujah. And when he came back, it wasn't medals or ceremonies he remembered. It was feeling invisible, forgotten, until Trump. Luis had written to Trump once, not expecting anything, just needed to say thank you. A week later, a letter arrived. Signed. Personal. Now, watching Trump speak again, not to elites but to broken families, to kids like Ethan, it wasn't about politics anymore. It was about something sacred, dignity. Maria reached over and squeezed her father's hand. "You still believe in him?" He looked at her, lips trembling. "I never stopped." That night, Maria shared her father's story online. It went viral, because millions of others had the same memory. They weren't forgotten. They were just waiting to be heard again. In the weeks following the rally, something strange began to happen. Not with headlines, but with hearts. People started talking again. At barbershops in Detroit, diners in Ohio, churches in Mississippi, not shouting, not tweeting, whispering. "Did you hear what he said?" He called out betrayal, not just names. He still remembers us. A cashier in Texas wrote, "We still fighting for us" on every receipt. A high school coach in Iowa played Trump's rally speech during morning announcements. A janitor in Florida posted a sign in his truck window, "This voice never gave up on mine." And soon, it wasn't just about the feud. It was about healing. Not from the past 4 years, but from 4 decades of being left behind. Even some who had once doubted Trump began to lean in, watching with different eyes. Not because he was perfect, but because he didn't pretend to be. He was real, scarred, loud, unfiltered, but honest. And as more stories poured out, Ethan's letter, Luis's tears, Maria's post, a quiet wave began to form. Not of anger, but of hope. At a town hall in Wisconsin, Trump took the stage alone. No teleprompter, just a chair and a handheld mic. The crowd sat quietly, hanging on to every word. Halfway through the event, a woman stood up in the back, nervous, shaking. "My name is Ashley," she said, voice cracking. "I'm a single mom. My husband died of an overdose in 2017. We lost everything. Nobody cared." Trump looked directly at her. She continued, "But last week I saw that video, the one with the boy and your call, and I just want to ask one thing." She paused, then whispered, "Do you really still believe we matter?" The room froze. Trump didn't hesitate. He stepped off the stage, walked down the aisle, and took her hand. With eyes glassy, voice steady, he said, "I don't just believe it. I feel it. Every day. In every town. Every face. I don't fight for power. I fight so you don't get forgotten." Ashley burst into tears, and so did half the room. Even the cameraman had to wipe his lens. This wasn't about a comeback anymore. It was about coming home. It was just past 6 a.m. at a dusty truck stop outside Tulsa. Donna, a waitress in her late 50s with tired eyes and a heart twice the size, poured coffee for a driver slumped over the counter. He looked up. "Did you hear what Trump said in Wisconsin?" Donna nodded. She didn't get into politics much. Life was too heavy already. Bills, chemo appointments, and raising 2 grandkids after her daughter's accident. But something about that night stuck with her. Ashley's trembling voice, Trump's quiet walk, the way he looked her in the eyes like she mattered. When her shift ended, Donna went outside and sat on the curb. The sun was rising, painting the sky in gentle pinks. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, not for herself, for the country, for people to care again, for someone to keep fighting for us. Then she stood, wiped her tears, and pulled out her phone. She posted, "I'm just a diner waitress, but I felt something last night. Something real. Thank you, Mr. Trump." By noon, her post had over 300,000 shares, because pain is powerful, but being seen is even more. On a live panel show in New York, 3 analysts debated the feud. One mocked Trump's town hall moment. Another shrugged it off as emotionally manipulative. Then a fourth voice, soft but unwavering, interrupted. It was Curtis Lang, a 42-year-old former Obama campaign advisor. "I was there in 2008, he said. "I believed in hope and change, I still do. But I watched that woman, Ashley. I watched Trump walk toward her, and I saw something I haven't seen in years." The studio went silent. Compassion. The host raised an eyebrow. "From Trump?" Curtis nodded slowly. "Yeah, from Trump. Real compassion. Not for cameras. For people." He continued, eyes moistening. "My brother is a vet, suicidal last year. He wrote to Trump out of desperation. He didn't expect anything, but Trump wrote back. Personally, that letter saved his life." The panel froze. Even the critics sat still. "This isn't about who we voted for," Curtis said. "It's about who remembers we exist." That clip, raw and unscripted, exploded online. Suddenly, the narrative cracked, and a nation raised on division saw something different. A man not trying to be perfect, just trying to be present. In South Carolina, 24-year-old Maya packed the last of her clothes into boxes. Her lease had ended. No job, no college degree, just a heart full of shame. Her mother had begged her to watch the rally last week. But Maya was tired of speeches, tired of promises, tired of being invisible. Yet, as she drove through quiet backroads, something tugged at her. She pulled over in an empty field, opened her phone, and finally hit play on the clip of Trump at the Wisconsin town hall. As the camera zoomed in on Ashley's trembling voice, Maya's hands began to shake. Then Trump stepped down from the stage. "I fight so you don't get forgotten." The screen blurred through her tears. She pressed pause, leaned against the steering wheel, and sobbed. Years of pain, rejection, abandonment flooding out. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel ashamed. She felt seen. That night, Maya made a new plan, not to give up, but to try again. She posted her story, signing off with 5 words. "You made me feel real." And somewhere, in a quiet room, far from the cameras, Donald Trump read it and smiled. The sun was setting over Mar-a-Lago when Donald Trump finally stepped away from the cameras. No podium, no audience, just silence. And a letter. It was from Maya. He'd read it 3 times already. "You made me feel real." He set it down, walked onto the balcony, and looked out at the waves. Melania joined him. "You're different lately," she said gently. "I see their faces," he replied. "Ethan, Luis, Donna, Maya. People who don't have power, but still have hope." She took his hand. "You gave that back to them." He nodded. "But they gave it back to me first." For years, the world painted him as loud, arrogant, selfish. But behind the roar was a man carrying a nation's pain. And finally, that truth was breaking through. He picked up his phone, not to tweet, not to fight, but to record a message. "Tonight," he began, "I want to speak to every American who's ever felt forgotten, abandoned, or silenced." He paused, heart full. "You're not alone. You're not a burden. You are the soul of this country. and I will never stop fighting for you." Somewhere in Washington, Barack Obama sat alone in a private room. His face was tired, not angry, just reflective. Trump's message had gone viral, not because it was fiery, but because it was real. Obama watched the video again, this time without judgment, just as a man, a father, a fellow American, and he felt something unexpected: humility. He had underestimated the depth of pain in people's lives, misjudged how personal politics had become. Maybe Trump hadn't climbed into power by slithering. Maybe he had walked in because someone had left the door open and no one else had answered the knock. Obama turned off the screen. His daughter Malia entered the room. "Dad, are you okay?" He looked up at her, voice soft. "He showed up for them," he said, "and I respect that." Malia sat beside him. It wasn't a concession. It wasn't an apology. It was something more rare. It was understanding. For the first time, the war of words between two giants gave way to something deeper than rivalry. A moment of unity, a quiet shift, and across the nation, hearts softened. A week later, Trump stood at a memorial wall in Ohio, a tribute to fallen workers, forgotten veterans, and single mothers who never made the news. Hundreds gathered, no music, no fanfare, just one microphone. He stepped up, surrounded by faces full of tears, hope, and healing. "I was called a snake," he said, "but I never crawled. I stood." He looked at Ethan, seated beside Maya and Donna. "I stood for you, for all of you." He choked up, voice breaking. "I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, but I never stopped loving this country, and I never will." The crowd erupted, not in noise, but in tears, in silence, in reverence, because they saw him now, not just as a former president, but as one of them. And as the ceremony ended, a little boy ran up to him, holding a crumpled American flag. "Thank you, Mr. Trump," he said. Trump bent down and hugged him tight. "You're the reason I fight." To everyone watching, if this story moved you, if you felt seen, if your heart ached or healed even just a little, please like this video, comment below, share your story, and subscribe, because your voice matters, and we're not done fighting for you.